All right. Another Facebook user says, I have AWS Cloud Practitioner certification. However, I'm having a hard time finding a job. So this is going to depend on what job you're going for and how valuable each certification is. So this is one of the things I always tell my students. Before embarking on a certification, there's really three reasons to get a certification. One is you just want to do it because it sounds like a good thing to do. And you're like, hey, I think this sounds good. It makes me feel good because I got my certificate, right? I take some certifications that way. A lot of times someone will be like, hey, there's this new certification out there. It's in beta right now. It's $20. Do you want to take it? And say, yeah, you did it. Sure, I'll do that. Second is to gain the knowledge covered by that certification. And you don't have to actually take the certification exam to do that, but just the act of going through and reading the books or going through the courses and getting that information is going to make you more valuable in the marketplace. But getting that certification does help if jobs are asking for it, because now you're going to hit those keywords on the resume. And then the third reason is to get a job. And that's why most of my students are getting these certifications, because they know it's going to help them get a job. Now, it's not a guarantee you're going to get a job, but it will help match up if there are jobs out there asking for those things. For example, Security Plus. We all know Security Plus is required for 70% of the jobs if you're working as a DoD contractor. It's part of the requirements under 8570. If they hire you and you don't have Security Plus and you don't get it within 6 months, they fire you. It's that serious, right? And so most employers will not even hire you unless you already have it. Same thing for CEH or PenTest Plus. That's about another 20% of the jobs. And the last 10% is CISSP. That being said, none of the jobs in the DoD government contracts right now require AWS Cloud Practitioner or AWS Cloud Associate. So there's not a direct, you need this to get a job. That being said, if you're struggling to get a job, it could be the cert that you're getting is not valuable in the marketplace, or it could be that you're applying for jobs and you're at the wrong level of certification. AWS Practitioner and Cloud Essentials, I put them in the same bucket. They're both very good introduction to the cloud, but they don't really certify you to do anything in the cloud. Generally, the way that they talk about AWS Practitioner, Cloud Practitioner, which is the first course Jeremy and I are doing, is the introduction to the cloud. It lets you know what each service is, and generally it's for people who want to be salespeople, analysts. You might be meeting with a business going, hey, Jeremy, I know you've got this company and you do e-learning. Let me tell you all the things that we can do at AWS to help you run your company better. And that might be things like AWS Connect, which allows you to have a call center, AWS Pinpoint, which allows you to do marketing and text messages and emails, AWS Lambda functions, so you don't have to run your own servers, but you can still run code, AWS Serverless Aurora, which is a database, and all those things, right? There's 30, 40, 50 of these things, and understanding what they are and being able to sell them is really what Practitioner is more about. Once you get to the Cloud Associate level, that's where you're actually implementing these solutions. So that might be where Jeremy says, hey, I'm going to run a WordPress site for your company. We can do that either in Lightsail or EC2. Which one should we use and why? And now he's going to actually go forward and implement that for you. That's the difference with those two levels. If you're having a hard time finding AWS Cloud Practitioner certifications, that doesn't actually surprise me, because it is a very entry-level certification, and it's being able to understand the vocabulary and the terminology with AWS, but it doesn't really teach you how to do things in AWS like the Cloud Associate does. And so really most of the jobs I've seen asking for an AWS certification start out with Cloud Associate. And that begs the question, why are we starting with Cloud Practitioner? Well, because we have a lot of people who need to at least understand the terminology and the language before they even start going into AWS Cloud Associate. Because if you go to Cloud Associate without having that background, even if you don't sit for the exam, going through an AWS Practitioner course is a great introduction to the cloud and decide if this is right for you. And do you actually understand the language and the terminology? If you're going to start learning English, you have to learn your ABCs. That's how I look at Practitioner. And because of that, Practitioner doesn't really line up to a lot of jobs, and I haven't seen it asked for by employers. This goes back to what I always tell my students. Before you embark on a certification and you spend the money on getting it, determine, do I need to spend the money on this? Is somebody going to value it? And the way you determine that is based on where you live in the world, going into Monster, Dice, LinkedIn, whatever your job engine of choice is, and search for the job you're thinking about. If you want to be a cybersecurity analyst, you want to be a cloud architect, you want to be whatever, type that in and see and look at the first 5 or 10 jobs. Look at what they're asking for the requirements. Are they asking for Amazon Cloud Practitioner, or are they asking for AZ900? Because those two are equivalent, and AZ900 is Azure, AWS is Cloud Practitioner. Or are you looking at the next level, which is Amazon Cloud Associate, or Amazon Cloud Architect, or Security Engineer? There's 30 or 40 different certifications in the AWS world. And I will tell you, not all of them are going to get you a job. In fact, most of them won't get you a job, because there's a lot of them that people just don't care about, because they are so high up the pecking order that by the time you'd have enough knowledge to pass that, you really don't need the certification. But by looking at the job postings and seeing what they're asking for, that will help you determine where should you spend your money. Now, if you're spending $10 on a Udemy course to get AWS Cloud Practitioner knowledge, totally worth it. Now, is spending $100 or $150 for the certification worth it? That's something you have to decide based on where you live in the world and what's being asked for in your region and for the jobs you're targeting. So that's the way I would approach that. And my guess is the jobs you're targeting are probably asking for AWS associate and not practitioner, because that's the next level up where you can actually be hands-on keyboard and knowing what you're doing.
AWS has over 200 services. And cloud practitioners say, hey, this is what they do, this is how they work together, and here are some of them. And they're going to ask you questions like, how do I save money? I'm a startup company and I want to save money. How does AWS help me with that? And they give you the list of choices. And the answer to the question is you don't have to build a whole server farm to run your business, because you could start it up on EC2 instances and power them on, turn them off. You can use on demand or spot and stuff like that. And that's the business side of it. So it's entry level and for business personnel to give them that level of knowledge to know what AWS actually can do for an organization. And then it also springboards, because the exams are building blocks to the next exam. It gives you the knowledge, that you know what AWS terms are, so you can get to that next level, so you can be hands on the keyboard to get you into that job placement.
And the way I always look at practitioner is it is the vocabulary, right? We all are speaking the same language and lexicon now, whether you're technical or non-technical. And now, if you want to be technical, we'll go to the next level where you actually be hands-on keyboard configuring things, right? And so that's the